Namaste everyone. I welcome you all for today's session on storage, file structure and RAID levels. The outline for today's session is overview of physical storage media, magnetic disks, RAID, that is redundant array of independent disks, storage access, file organization, organization of records in files, data dictionary, storage. The topic is theoretical, but it's very easy. The purpose is very important. Why we have storage and file structure and RAID levels. Okay, that's the main reason of database systems as well. So let us start. Classification of physical storage media. Now, we have hard disk, we have primary memory, we have secondary memory. Hard disk is a part of secondary memory. Okay, primary memory, we have ROM and RAM. We have all discussed in the subjects of computer architecture and organization that we have got volatile as well as non-volatile memory. Okay, now suppose your data is there in the memory which is not saved. Right now it is in the volatile memory, right? And there is a power failure, so the data is lost, and it's a very crucial data. For example, sometimes you are working on a system, you have edited a file, you've done a lot of efforts on designing that particular file, and immediately there is a power failure, the contents are not saved. Sometimes there are situations where the crucial data is there, we have saved on the hard disk, but the hard disk also crashes. Then what will happen? Okay, so sometimes we have to keep multiple copies of the crucial data. Why? Because any data can be lost anytime. You save your data on the pen drive, but pen drive can also be corrupted at times. You keep it on, then you have Google Drive, which you find it very safe, okay, nowadays. So that's why we have classification of physical storage data. So speed with which the database is accessed, cost per unit of the data, reliability. Okay, data loss on power failure or system crash, physical failure of the storage device itself. Okay, now this is the power failure of the volatile memory, whereas this is the power failure of the non-volatile memory. Also, it can happen anytime. So we can differentiate the storage into two parts. Volatile means we have discussed in computer architecture, ROM and RAM. So loses contents when power is switched off. Non-volatile means contents persist even when the power is switched off. That includes your secondary and the tertiary storage, as well as the battery backup main memory. Okay. So speed, cost, reliability. The purpose of database management system itself is that we want to access the data fast. Okay, everybody is in a hurry. You can't wait to retrieve your data. When you try to search a file, you want immediately that your file should be retrieved. Okay, nobody wants to wait half an hour to search a file whenever you put even in your normal file storage, in your, whether it's a mobile or your laptop or your machine, whatever it is. But to access faster, you need to store it in an efficient manner. In the previous lectures, we had discussed that if you have lots of clothes, so the more the number of clothes, the more time consuming it is to access, right? If you have less, then it's easier to access. So if you have got more data, and nowadays data information is numerous, so you have to numerous as well as enormous. Okay, so you have to manage it efficiently. So the way you store the data efficiently, the faster you can access. Okay, so that is why even data per unit storage is also should be efficient, and it's eminent rather. So physical storage media, you have cache, So cache is the fastest and the most costly form of storage. It's volatile and it is managed by computer system hardware. In fact, you can say that it is the closest to the ALU. It is residing in your CPU itself and it is closest to your ALU and the primary memory. Okay, now main memory, fast access, 10 seconds to 100 seconds of nanoseconds rather. 1 nanosecond is equal to 10 to the power minus 9 seconds. So it's that fast, main memory. Okay, so we can say that cache is very close. It is a part of the main memory, but it is more closer in the main memory itself. Then secondary memory is a much more far, okay, than your data. So generally too small to store the entire database. So volatile contents of main memory are usually lost in terms of power failure. Now, why main memory is small? For example, last time in the lecture, I told you that I am the CPU, for example, and some student comes me for difficulty. Now, in my cabin, can I occupy 100 students for difficulty? No, because in nearer to the CPU, how much data can somebody occupy? Same manner, the size of the main memory, which is closer to the ALU operation, is slow, is less. So flash memory, data survives power failure. So that means this is the type of non-volatile memory. Data can be written at the location only once, but location can be erased and written again. Okay, earlier we were using CDs, still we are using it, but in CDs we had read, write and update. Read means only it can be read, write means it can be only written once or it can be overwritten rather, and update means either it can be overwritten twice or it can go into append mode. We have discussed what is append mode in our previous lectures. Okay, so this is how much support it can give. So obviously it is more since it is secondary memory. The reads are roughly as fast as main memory, but writes are slow. Erase is slower. Okay, so fast reads but very slow erase. Used to store program code in many embedded devices. There is another category of flash memory, that is NOR, and another is NAND. We have seen a lot of gates, OR gates, AND gates. NOR gate is the negation of OR and NAND gate is negation of AND. So using those logic gates, okay, this flash memory is designed. This is more discussed in our computer architecture and organization lectures. Then we have another category, magnetic disk. So data is stored on a spinning disk and read written magnetically. And this has direct access. Okay, you can go directly to that disk and that too in any order. Okay, that can be done. So its capacity is much more, as in previous case, it's mentioned here. And please, I want you to switch off your videos because the recording is going on. So next type of storage is physical storage. That is also a non-volatile. Data is read optically from a spinning disk using a laser. So CD-ROM, DVD, they are the most popular forms of optical storage. So write one, read many. Okay, optical disk used for archival storage. We have discussed these types of CDs, right? So they are nothing but write one and read many. Multiple write versions are also available. That's called CD-RW, DVD-RW, DVD plus RW, and DVD-RAM. We already use this in our daily lives. Read and writes are slower than with magnetic disks. Okay, so they are slower as compared to magnetic disks. The design is in such a manner that they are slower. Then there is another type of system called as jukebox with large number of removable disks, a few drives and a mechanism for automatic loading, unloading of disks available for storing large volumes of data. Another type of non-volatile storage is tape storage. So this is used primarily for backup. to recover from disk failure and for archival data. Sequential access, much slower than disk. Why? Because if you want in library, suppose you want 100th book and you have only sequential order from say alphabetically A to Z, and you want a book which starts from Z. So what will happen? You have to start sequentially from A, and ultimately the time complexity would be maximum it carries out. Suppose there are 100 books and say one book access requires 1 second, so maximum you can require 100 seconds. But if you have direct access, you can directly go to the Z alphabet, okay, then maybe the time is slower. So if you do sequential access, anytime, always, it will be slower. But it has a very high capacity, 40 to 300 GB tapes. Okay, it can be removed from drive. Storage costs much cheaper than the disk, but drives are expensive. So tape jukeboxes are available for storing massive amount of data. Okay, this is the capacity given here, hundreds of terabytes. The main thing you have to remember is that tape storage is basically used for backup. So the hierarchy is as follows. First was the primary storage, which is fastest because it's the closest, okay, but it is to the CPU, but it is volatile. Example is cache and main memory we discussed right now. Another type is secondary storage, okay, which is not as fast as primary, but it is can have higher capacity of data storage, and it is non-volatile in nature. So this is also called as online storage. An example which we discussed right now, each flash memory, magnetic tapes, tertiary tapes storage, okay, and that is also called as offline storage. And the example of online storage is flash memory and magnetic disks, whereas of offline storage, what we discussed is magnetic tape and optical storage. So this is the hierarchy. This is fastest, that's why it is at the top. This is far. And as in terms of capacity, this is less and this is high. Now, the mechanism of this magnetic hard disk is as follows, given in this diagram. So, this is like a cylinder, which is having, say, multiple disks. Each disk has track, and this is all these disks are on this spindle, and this forms a cylinder over here. Okay, it has got a read write head which starts. This is the platter. This is how it rotates. And then each track T has a sector S. And this is managed by this ARM assembly. Okay, so this diagram is a schematic and simplifies the structure of actual disk drives. So how does this magnetic disk work? The read-write head, it is positioned very close to the platter surface, almost touching it. Read or writes magnetically encoded information. It reads or writes magnetically encoded information. The surface of the platter is divided into circular tracks. Okay, so cylinder is having platter is having tracks. Okay, and then tracks is having sectors. Every capacity is mentioned here. This is increasing day by day as per the evolutionary technology. And to read or write a sector, disk arm swings to the position head on the right track. Platter spins continuously. Continually data is written as sector passes under the head. Okay, so if first we have to identify in which track we want to retrieve the data. After getting the track, we try to find out in which sector we need to retrieve the data. Okay, and before that we first track the platter, and then on that sector then we place our read write head and it starts retrieving the data. So head disk assemblies, multiple disk platters on a single spindle. So it is usually how many disk platters you can occupy? 1 to 5. So one head per platter mounted on a common arm. Cylinder eye consists of eye track of all the platters. So we need to identify the eye where our data is residing. Earlier generation disks were susceptible to head crashes, leading to loss of data. So current generation disks are less susceptible to such disastrous failure, but individual sectors may get corrupted. If you have seen the series also, if there are some scratches. So scratches means actually we have destroyed the sector particulars. So when you try to play that CD, some parts you can hear, some parts they have been corrupted because that sector has got corrupted because the read-write head, okay, on that sector, it got destroyed. So sometimes if the read-write heads responsible sector is destroyed, the entire track itself you cannot able to hear or retrieve. So what is this disk controller? This is the controller of the cylinder which tries to map and then manage all the interfaces between the computer system and the disk drive hardware. Okay, it basically it computes and attaches some checksums to each sector to verify that the data is read back correctly. So if the data is corrupted, what will happen? That too with a very high probability stored checksum won't match the recomputed checksum. So this is how the controller manages it. So it ensures successful writing by reading back sector after writing. So it performs mapping of the back sectors. So this subsystem, it has multiple disks. It has one bus. So basically we are having concurrency, which we learned, distributed system. So bus means this is going to take the data. Okay, so there is a single bus. There is one disk controller who is going to manage all the multiple disks. So multiple disks connected to a computer system through a controller. And disk interface standard families, you have got an adapter. Okay, you have got a serial adapter, then you have got a small computer system interconnect. So these are the wires which are used to create an interface so that you can integrate easily with different types of disks. So there are different performance measures which you should know with respect to disks. So first is the access time. So this is the time it takes from when a read or write request is issued to when the data transfer begins. So if I issued the data on 2 o'clock and it starts at 2:05, so that is the access time. Seek time it takes to reposition the arm over the correct time. Okay, it will require some time to track what is the correct track of the cylinder. So that time is called as the seek time. Then average seek time is half the worst case seek time. Why? Because it has got two sides. That is why. Would be 1/3 if all tracks had the same number of sectors. And we ignore the time to start and stop the arm movement. That's very simple. So it will require generally 4 to 10 milliseconds on typical disks. Now what is the next term? That is rotational latency. Now these all times are related to basically the access time, because in between your request and the data transfer starts. Okay, we have got the seek time, that means to identify the track, and the rotational latency means time to take for the sector. So first we identify the track, then we identify the sector, and then actually our data transfer will begin. So these two times summation is nothing but the access time. So next term is data transfer rate, the rate at which the data can be retrieved from a stored to the disk. So 25 to 100 MB per second maximum rate, lower for inner tracks. Similarly, we have got another term, that is mean time to failure. That's called as MTTF. The average time the disk is expected to run continuously without any failure. So mean time to failure means the average time the disk is expected to run continuously without any failure. So since we are using the app right now, and initially I told that this session would be of 45 minutes. So that is why the mean time to failure is 45 minutes. It may get extended if the app supports, it will, extend or maybe restart automatically. But at time it automatically abrupts also. We all know over here. So that is why the mean time to failure we can see for this app is 45 minutes. Similarly over here. So there's the example given here. You can just read and you will get the concept more clear. You have to, note it down, these points on your notes. And with this example, then you try to calculate using your calculator. Definitely, it is very well explained. Now, what is optimization of a disk block access? Now, what is a block? A block is a contiguous sequence of sectors from a single track. So, we have got a platter, okay, and that's the cylinder parts. And then we have got a track. Then on track, we have got sectors. Now, contiguous sequence of sectors, even sectors can be divided, and that's called block. Okay, so you have heard a lot of times block of data. So now ultimately you know that in physical storage term, that is basically the contiguous sequence of sectors of the single track RAM. So data is transferred between disk and main memory in blocks. Data is transferred between disk and main memory in blocks. So see, if there is a read operation, data would be transferred from disk to main memory. Whenever you start your system, your operating system is being loaded from the disk to your main memory, right? And if you open a file, that also means that you are trying to retrieve that memory data from the disk to the main memory, because ultimately when it's there in the main memory, then only you can start updating it, right? So that is the data is transferred. When you are doing write operation, then it is reverse. The data is transferred from main memory to the disk. So when you are doing the save operation, you are doing the data transfer from main memory to the disk. That means the block of data, whatever you are saving, is being transferred from the main memory to the disk. So sizes range from 512 bytes to several kilobytes. Smaller blocks, larger blocks, and typical block sizes, they range from 4 to 16 kilobytes. So disk arm scheduling, these are the algorithms. Algorithms means the steps to perform that operation of disk arm. So the disk read-write head has to be placed on the proper sector, right, to retrieve that data. So there are some algorithms which are designed and stored in the operating system itself for physical storage retrieval in order for the pending access to track, so that the disk arm movement is minimized. Okay, why it is minimized? Because we want to access the data faster. So the more the access time is less, the more easier, the faster you can retrieve the data. So what is access time? It is the seek time. See, we just saw it is the seek time plus the rotational latency. Okay, that means the task to reposition the arm on the correct track. So the more less this time is, the more the efficient is the access time. Access time efficient means it is less. So there is one elevator algorithm mentioned here, which is very popularly used. Move disk arm in one direction from outer to the inner tags or vice versa, processing the next request in that direction till no more request in that direction, then reverse the direction and repeat. Now see, sometimes you are not able to focus in the lecture because it's theoretical topic and it goes long. And if you miss a particular definition spoken by us, you can just go back 10 seconds earlier and you can, listen it again. That's the meaning of the recorded lectures. That's more useful. So even if you miss out sometimes, you may be not able to focus that time. Maybe you have not listened, or maybe some are slow learners. So you can obviously go back to the definition. That is not the problem. Now see, basically these physical storage algorithms, disk arm scheduling algorithms, are people who are working on hardware, okay, on system programming, okay, not the software engineers, those who are just using the middle level language or the high level language. But these algorithms are designed on the low level language, where typical the compiler design, the DAR algorithms, the the system programming is done on the design part of the operating system. So these are already inbuilt in our current operating systems. But if you in turn are planning to work on operating system, to build your own operating system, to do the updations on the open source, on the Linux program, then probably you need to design these algorithms, or you may redesign it. Now coming to the next part of this session, and that is called RAID. RAID is redundant array of